Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thank you for checking out the channel, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. I appreciate you guys stopping by. So, Miami Dolphins, their injury front that's going down right now. Raheem Mostert, he told reporters that he thinks he's going to play. Hopefully that is the case. Mike McDaniel making the point that he got hurt on the first play of the season and has been messing with that chest. It's been messing with him all year. If he does, he'll be on some kind of a modified snap count. Also mentioned today, same thing with Odell, that he was going to go with the practice to determine. He was asked today, is it more prudent to go with Odell to give him this week off, have the bye week, little more practice, let's get going. The one thing that Mike McDaniel said that stood out to me, I don't know for sure, I'm not in his head, but the one thing that stood out to me that he had mentioned is how the team is desperate for a win. You know, like the team is looking for a win. And I just think that if Odell Beckham can go, I think it's time for the Dolphins to put him out there. And Odell mentioned that, you know, he didn't want to be on IR, or PUP, whatever the hell it is, that he was doing a selfless act and all that type of stuff. If this is supposed to be a ramp up kind of stint, more so than he's not all the way back, I'm good with getting him out there. I understand that he is in the spot where he doesn't maybe know the offense as pristine. Couple things on that. One, neither does the quarterback. And two, he knows the quarterback. So he's familiar with Tyler Huntley. I think maybe, if anything, I think it could be a good safety blanket for Tyler Huntley to have out there. So I'm not of this rest him a little bit more, season him a little bit more. Why? He's a veteran. He's been around. If he can help, if the Dolphins feel like he can help in any way, especially with this, these possessions where Mike McDaniel doesn't like to have Waddle or Tyreek on the field at the same time, dude, I'm all for having Odell out there. So we'll see what ends up happening. Teron Armstead, Kendall Fuller, both looking good. So it seems like the Dolphins will have some reinforcements on the line. Seems like they will have some reinforcements, a couple of reinforcements on the secondary, getting Cam Smith if he'll get some PT. And Kendall Fuller coming back. So that's some good news in this game against the Patriots. And certainly you can't chalk up any wins if you're the Miami Dolphins. I mean, being an underdog to the Patriots is embarrassing enough. Understand that they are the road team, but man, it's pretty crazy to think about where the Miami Dolphins are at right now. So much so that we're even in the ether of talking about drafts for next year, and you can thank Deion Sanders for that. Deion Sanders really putting it out there this week that he seems to be intrigued by the idea of Shedeur Sanders playing for the Miami Dolphins. He was on the Nightcap, the podcast with Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco. And he, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where he implies that would be a place. He says, what do you do business-wise if you're the Dolphins? Deion told Shannon Sharp and Ochocinco, do you take a quarterback, which is what I'm saying, or do you say, Tua, let's check this out. Let's see what we're going to do. Is his health more important than that? Took a second for the two to understand where Sanders was going when it finally clicked. They said the quiet part. Let's say Tua, because of the Tua injury, things don't work out. It leaves open. They have to make a decision, go into the draft room, and boom, Shedeur to the Dolphins, said Chad Ochocinco. And then Deion responds, so you just got that revelation, huh? That's why he brought it up, Ocho, said Shannon Sharp. So the Dolphins definitely have to be kicking themselves with how badly things have gone with Skylar Thompson as their backup. There's there's nobody who could judge Miami if they did go into next year, even in the first round, and they went quarterback because of where we're at with Tua's concussions. You know, I don't blame any Dolphin fan that's in the draft room or doing the mock drafts and looking at the possibility of them drafting Shedeur Sanders, who's, top 3, top 5 in a lot of mock drafts, him and Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter's looked upon as probably 1 or 2 right now in the draft and in what he's able to do. You know me as a Canes fan. Even we have kicked around on the radio show Cam Ward to the Dolphins. Like, to go the route of having a Canes QB who is mobile really has changed, it seems, the culture of Miami, pulling wins out of his butt that maybe they shouldn't have won. And it's just a really, really impressive young man. Obviously has gotten into it with Shedeur on a fun competitive basis this offseason. And, there's definitely been from Deion's perspective that he is going to try and lure his son and steer his son to a very desirable location, that they're not going to just put him in any organization. They want him to be, it seems like, in a rock star type of situation, doing the Eli Manning and you're not going to San Diego, you're going to go to New York. Come on, let's stop being ridiculous. So if it comes down to Jacksonville wants to draft Shedeur Sanders and the Dolphins, let's just say it just goes like this, and hopefully it doesn't. But would they steer anybody away from Jacksonville? Because Jacksonville's going to be thinking the same things. Anybody who's spent a lot of money on their quarterback and has that question and regret, the only way you're going to get somebody competent to play that is going to get a rookie and be in that situation. Like you look at even San Francisco, they spent a top 3 pick on Trey Lance, completely went belly up, but they had the great fortune of making a great selection in Brock Purdy, and he's been able to do the great job for them. So if this Tua thing becomes a thing, and Tua and his NFL future is really in doubt, or he comes back and he gets another concussion, even if he doesn't, if Tua comes back and he plays the remainder of the last 12 games of the season, and he gets through it, even if the Dolphins make the playoffs, the Dolphins have to think about insurance policies. Now, if Tua plays to his capabilities, will the Dolphins be in a position to be one of the worst? Yeah, probably not. Probably not. And they probably won't be in a position to draft Shedeur or Cam Ward. Cam Ward's a little bit more all over the board. We'll see. But I get the Dolphin fan that's looking now, because here's the thing. And this is one of the things that I found a little bit bothersome about the Dolphins putting Tua on IR, even though it seems like this was more minor than other concussions that he's had, even though it looked bad when it happened. But I don't know what it bought the Dolphins to do that. If they just felt like, hey, we're going to put him aside for 5 weeks and no one can judge us after that because that's more than a month. Cool. But if he does get a concussion again, even if it's like when it happened with Green Bay on Christmas Eve, where we didn't even know that he got a concussion and his season was over, I don't know how the Dolphins can, in good faith, go the rest of his time now without having a serious, viable option to back him up. And I say that as somebody who's a huge Tua fan. I was for paying him the money. I look very stupid because the one thing that couldn't happen has happened to him. But I own that. I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't want Tua to get paid. I thought Tua deserved to get paid. And I understood why Tua was so firm on getting paid. This is exactly why. He's been part of this very dangerous sport. The Dolphins have turned a blind eye to durability since Chris Greer's really taken the reins here. And if they continue to go this poorly, I think all options are on the table. I don't know how Stephen Ross, who just sold 13% of the Dolphins for what was it, $8 billion or something like that? I didn't even understand the math. I guess it was that Hard Rock Stadium and F1. He's getting $8 billion from that. So I guess he's got his safety net. We don't have to worry about Stephen Ross making ends meet. However, he did still go on the broadcast and say, I expected this to be a Super Bowl team. If they fall so woefully short of expectations, you never know what a rich guy's going to do. You don't. Like, they don't like looking stupid. And right now, Stephen Ross looks a fool for paying all this money out. I'm not saying it's his fault. He has people to run the organization. And they said, hey, give this guy an extension. Give this guy an extension. This guy's making a stink. Give him an extension. This is where they're at. So Tua comes back. Tua doesn't come back. I think all that stuff has to be looked at as, or what is the Dolphins' plan going to be with him? What is their Tua insurance policy going to be after this year? Because you believed it was going to be Skylar Thompson, hoping that it would never happen. In a worst case scenario, it happened right away. And he looked nowhere near ready, even with 3 years in the offense. And now you're doing this with a guy and scrambling with a guy who's been here for 2+ weeks. And he put up 90 yards of passing offense last week. Haven't had a passing touchdown in 2 weeks. So haven't had one to a wide receiver since week 1. So Miami getting that stuff around Deion. Like, don't think that the Buzzards aren't going to be circling around the Dolphins with all these weapons and thinking, I could be the guy that plugs in there and gets it done. It's gonna be all over the place. It's definitely one of those things that's not going anywhere. And that's even with if Tua comes back and is good. Like, it's still going to be a question of, all right, well, what's the insurance policy for next year? This one just happens to be high profile because, you're talking about an NFL legend and his son, who's a star quarterback, who's going to go probably early in the draft.